Sorry for the delay. We are being streamed on YouTube. Just wanted to make sure. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Weekly Wednesday. Sorry for the delay. We are being streamed on YouTube. Just wanted to make sure.
She has already figured out how to clone herself. 6 minutes in, and she's done cloning. That's pretty impressive.
Sorry. Okay. Let's get started. Logistics. Okay. So, Ken.
I'm here.
I think I've lost Ken.
I saw Ken for a minute.
I'm still here.
Oh, perfect. Sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, now I can see. So anyways, welcome everyone. Let's start over again. Welcome everyone to Weekly Wednesday. I'm Sneha Jadhav, your host. And today we have with us Ken Herron. Ken, thank you so much for joining us. It is our pleasure to have you here. And I am so excited. The prep work, the prep call that we did, I was so excited with the content that we were discussing, and I cannot wait to share it with everyone around here. Just again, as a reminder, we are live on YouTube. So I just would like everyone else to know. The thing is, if you have questions, please continue to type them in the chat for the folks on the Zoom. And then we will either take it towards the end, or if it makes sense, we can insert it in the conversation. But anyways, without further ado, I would like to introduce Ken. Ken is the Chief Growth Officer of Singapore-based API First UIB, a company called UIB. UIB develops the solutions artificial intelligence, that is AI, needs to work with humans by making human to machine communication as simple and natural as human to human communications, giving AI the information, control, and management it needs to technically evolve, right? Ken hosted the award-winning Social Solutions podcast for 7 years, and is popular author and a frequent speaker on digital transformation and leveraging new technologies to emotionally connect companies to their customers. And Ken, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. With that, I would like to hand it over to you to tell us a little more about yourself, so that we can get to know you more.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me. I have to joke. It's always funny when you hear your bio. It's like, yeah, a marketing person wrote that. Absolutely. We're at a very interesting inflection point. We see the bumper sticker, what a great time to be alive. This is an amazing period that we're seeing so much technology be available to businesses and organizations, often at little or no cost. That we think of all the different things we've seen, and I know we're going to be talking a lot about generative AI, specifically ChatGPT. And I think back when people say, well, is this we're all going to be thrown out of work? Is it going to replace our jobs? What are we going to need to do it? I equate it to 2 simple examples from our past that viewers who are a little older may remember. There was a time when we didn't have calculators. Calculators were introduced, and most of us now use them without even thinking about them. It's a tool. It's an assistant. Do I still have to do spreadsheets? Do I still have to do calculations? Yes, I have a tool that hopefully makes it a little faster, a little easier, and hopefully more accurate. In the 90s, Photoshop became very, very popular, and there was a lot of discussion, animated discussion among creatives. Oh my gosh, this is going to destroy photography as we know it. Last I checked, photography is going well. It was a tool that has become increasingly accessible. If you're a professional photographer, you use some type of tools for your photos, and there's a lot of argument as to overuse or not enough, but it has made that accessible so that if you flip up Instagram or TikTok, there are filters there that everyone is now able to access and benefit from these filters. I view AI in general, whether we speak in terms of generative AI, and let me define those real quick, or conversational AI. I see the technology progressing to a point where the stress and the fear that many of us are feeling right now is that it's a lot at once. If you're not terribly technical, ooh, what do I need to do? Should I be concerned? It's fascinating to me that we speak to a lot of different principals at companies. Not one of them has not been asked by their board, by their investors, what is your strategy for ChatGPT? What are you doing? The finger pointing as well. What are you doing about this? What are the risks? How are you managing our data? All valid questions. So hopefully through the discussion today, we can maybe remove some of that stress. People can take a deep breath and saying, we've been through this before. We remember, many of us, a time before internet, before social media. This is just the next thing of the moment. Are we in a hype cycle with kind of crazy buzz? Absolutely. Are we also at a period of time where we can test and trial and pilot and do proofs of concept to figure out how to make it work for us and quickly jump that learning curve? If I may, a couple quick explanations. What is AI? That's a big basket to start with. The art, the science, all the different things that enable technology to mimic some aspect of being human. And I should preface that by saying AI is pretty stupid. You've heard the term dumb as dirt, and with all due respect to dirt, it's not very bright. Traditionally, we have had to train AI, and that's where conversational AI comes in that it is prescripted. Someone can ask a question, but we've pre-written the answer. It gives us control, it gives us precision, and we're able to use natural language understanding, natural language processing to be able to connect the questions that people have asked with the right answer. Generative AI is a little bit different in that it has been pre-trained, that companies like OpenAI and others have gone ahead and pre-trained the AI so it feels as if we are not training it. So when we ask it a question, it's pulling from the past and answering that. Also, it has the capability, the generative part of it, to actually create things. So I can tell it, write a letter. I can tell it, write a program, create a website, which is different than how we have maybe used it before. The number of use cases are more than anyone can count. So it's really understanding what are the core capabilities, testing it, playing with it. It's now free on our iPhones. If you're in the US, again, minor issue. We're based in Singapore, so we're a little sensitive when anyone rolls out something and it's iPhone only or US only. But this ability to go in and play with it as a person and then get with different folks, whether it's myself or my many, many peers in the industry, okay, great, I get how it is. How can this impact our business? With whatever your goals. I was on a phone call with a large charity organization yesterday. How can they use it to accomplish their mission and increase donations and get bigger bang out of every dollar they receive in? So I think over the next very short period of time, we're going to see a lot of noise, a lot of hype, but we're also going to see some really exciting use cases, whether it's healthcare, whether it's banking. I don't think, in my prediction, and predictions are very dangerous, 8 to 12 months from now, I don't think there will be an industry that we won't see some spectacular successes of the use of AI. And just about everyone will have a story that, hey, we tried something and it didn't work. But because we can innovate so quickly, so rapidly now, learn from mistakes, I think we're going to see many, many more successes than failures. You're still on mute?
And you're absolutely right. We've had a couple of speakers now in the last 3-4 sessions. We're talking about ChatGPT, and every session we've learned something new. There's just so much about it. And also between 2 sessions, there's a new leap that ChatGPT or the generative AI world makes. And we're like, oh, so what we learned last week was basically stale. Now you're learning something new, right? Well, so with that, Ken, do you want to quickly talk a little bit about your work, how you help your clients?
Of course, I appreciate that. Thank you. We make 2 platforms. That's simple. We make a platform for omni-channel messaging.
Yeah.
Because depending on what country you're in, you may prefer to speak on WhatsApp or iMessage or Kakao or Line. So we have almost 100 integrations. So no matter what channel and what language you want to speak on, we enable that. So there's a lot of people who make chatbots. We enable the chatbots to speak on any channel, on any language. We also happen to have our own chatbot platform. So we're very interesting in that we sell to our competitors. We also sell to very large companies that don't want to develop their own chatbot platform, conversational AI and IoT platform, but choose to use ours. And we sell that white label. Anyone who wants to get into the space, we're more than happy. Subscription service, very easy to get up and running and get started. But I should preface, we don't sell the technology. You've heard the old metaphor, you don't sell the drill, you sell the ability to make holes. We don't sell chatbots. We sell the ability to communicate with any device on any channel and any language. So it's the capabilities, it's the benefits, and it all ends up with I either make money, save money, or I delight a customer, I delight a user. Every single use case, it all goes down to those three.
Absolutely. And I think with with evolving trends and how quick things are evolving, I believe everyone needs help. No one can say we have an expert within our company right now. Right?
It's fair to say that two heads are better than one. And if someone has done, we're up, we just broke 1,000 chatbots. For people who have been in the space, we've been around almost 10 years now. For people who have been doing this is just another, cool sprinkle on the donut. But we realize that people have questions, people have concerns, people have stress. Who owns the data? If I'm asking a question, wait a minute. Apple just said that their employees can't use ChatGPT. What does that mean? Is it safe for me to use? So to be able to have those honest answers and say, okay, what is right for you? Yeah. Because there are so many different generative AI platforms, ChatGPT just happens to be the one we're talking about most this week.
Yes. Okay. So, hey, you mentioned about your clients. Do you want to walk us through some use cases that you're seeing, some popular use cases or client stories? I think that would really help our listeners right now.
Sure. And there's so many. The use cases, even though I may suggest them that they are industry specific, often they are the same use cases, just used differently based on the industry. With generative AI, it has the ability to summarize information. So someone sends you, also, let me back up a half step. There are customer-facing use cases where you give your customers, your users, the ability to use these tools. And then there's internal use cases. Both are fair, both are valid. Just because it's not in a sales perspective or you're letting a customer use it, doesn't mean it's not very valuable for your company. So someone sends me a contract and someone else sends me another contract and my boss says, I want you to summarize these. I can do that. It may take me some time if it's an 80 or 100-page contract each. I can feed these into a generative AI system and it can summarize them for me. I can tell it, give me a 200-word analysis of each one. Compare these two against each other in 50 words. Tell me what these are about, summarize the risks in the form of Edgar Allan Poe, like Dr. Seuss. I mean, it gets a little bit silly, but you have a really weird capacity to summarize, to analyze, and to generate new content. Yeah. I deal with contracts, not a lawyer, no legal advice from me ever. But if I'm told I need a contract for X or draft a contract, which many of us as business professionals said, hey, draft a contract, the general counsel is going to look at it, but draft a contract for XYZ. I can now go into a generative AI program, ChatGPT or others, and say, give me a 5-page simple agreement, 2-party agreement for the sale of X, and it will do it. And the quality will be scary good. Yeah. Doesn't mean it's perfect. It doesn't mean I should not read it and understand. It's like the spell checker. If I'm a lousy writer and I use a spell checker, it's not going to make me a good writer. But if I am already somewhat adept at writing draft contracts, I can now put in the criteria, the prompts, and it will give me a again, scarily good contract.
Yeah.
The better I craft the prompts, and you've probably heard this from a lot of other people, the better the result. This is why when you see a lawyer use ChatGPT and they understand the vocabulary and they understand what to ask for, their draft contract is amazing. And because most of us have to pay our general counsels by the hour, that's a really big deal. Also, from a return perspective, if I'm dealing with a client and I have two different agreements, I have to go through that or wait for the big person to go through it for me. Now I can do that summary, that analysis, and I can get that answer in a phone call in 3-4 seconds. That's powerful. That enables me to make better business decisions in real time. For all, I could be doing this on my iPhone with the ChatGPT app in real time. That's very powerful. And why that all matters, in business, we're always competing with someone, hopefully against ourselves, but we're always competing with someone else. If a competitor can give a better answer more quickly, even in real time, they're going to win in the long run. So it equips you to be better able to have these discussions and to deal with these customer questions as they pop up.
Yeah. So it's almost like this is becoming one of the competitive advantages of the company to adapt, and in your world, in your client's world, to adapt and meet the customers where they are, right?
I see it as an imperative. Right now, we're talking about is something cool, something fun, something optional. I think that discussion, if it hasn't already, depending on the industry, is going to take a very different tone. It's going to be, we're no longer competitive. Our costs are higher. We are slower to respond.
Yeah.
And go back to kind of traditional chatbot, conversational AI. I have an agent, very skilled agent, warm, friendly, knows everything, but it takes 3 minutes for him or her to answer the phone when a customer has, my head is on fire problem. Yeah. With a chatbot, they can say, with the urgency, with emotion, my head is on fire. The chatbot, split second, here's the answer, here's a diagram, here's a video, here's a checklist. You want to talk to a live person, I'll immediately put you through. Yep. That's a very different customer care experience. We talk about, customer experience to the point where it kind of loses value. This enables us not just to save money, not just to make more money. Those are good things. We need to do those or we don't stay in business, but allows us to genuinely create a better experience and a different experience, because we all have competitors. So the people who, again, kind of the call to action, the people who are able to figure out how to use this tool for their particular industry, for their particular business sooner, are going to have an insanely positive competitive advantage over people who do not.
And from business perspective, I think it will be sooner rather than later that companies start attaching OKRs, outcomes, saying time to respond in case of,
we're seeing it now, and quality of response. That it's not just the answer is X, but here's a video. Yeah. Here's a full diagram. Here's, because we deal with so many non-native speakers of English, here's a diagram with no words that walks you through a complicated process step by step. Because a chatbot has all the patience in the world. We tend to think it's all about speed. I'll give a real life example. I'm charging my car in Singapore. I've not used this charger before. I'm completely non-technical. I have no idea how to deal with this. I put in the headset and say, what do I do? It says, okay, you got this. First of all, brand appropriate, it's encouraging. It lets me know this is going to be okay. I got you. We know how to do this. It walks you through step by step. It shows you diagrams, shows you videos. That we've made a clunky process, and many people would admit, yeah, EV charging can be, when it doesn't go well, clunky. That you can help someone with that soothing, branded, magical voice to go through it. And if it takes me an hour or takes me 5 minutes, it walks me through it my speed, my pace. That I don't feel like I'm talking to an agent that's just trying to rush me off to get to the next call, because their metrics are designed for that. That it really allows me to do it. And if I need to make changes in the physical hardware of the machine. I don't know how to do that. I can now do that conversationally, and through the conversational IoT, the chatbot can make those changes that are needed so I have a successful experience with billing, with auditing, with tracking, with all the rest.
Right, right. So if you have to share some metrics or outcomes from your client's perspective, anything that you can share with us just to help us understand how real this is getting in the business world?
I think where I started, that there is not a company out there that the board is not asking the C-level suite, what is your plan? What is your strategy?
Right.
What are you doing about this? The board members may not fully understand all the anchors of it, but they're saying the world has changed. It feels like and again, this has happened many, many times before. The world feels like it has suddenly changed. There's a new set of capabilities. We're seeing all these shiny things, and some businesses stumbling, as we saw Google did, others doing a little better, as Microsoft is, as of this morning. Again, this is still a very open, fluid environment. What are you going to do? And maybe it's a proof of concept. Maybe it's a pilot, it's a trial. Maybe it's something as simple as just spending a few minutes a day. There's a lot of excellent resources. Everyone is jumping over each other, say, here's to help you understand it. Here's an analysis of it. There's a lot of good daily newsletters. There's a lot of good people on Twitter that are really making this accessible and understandable. To take that 5 or 10 minutes a day, what just changed, as you kind of jokingly, but not so jokingly said, what just changed in the last 24 hours? How does it impact me? How does it impact the business and the people that I care for in that business?
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about the caution that we need to use, that companies or clients you suggest to use while implementing or adopting this technology?
The caution is, and it changes a little bit based on which country you're in. We do a lot of business in Germany, so we are hardwired for GDPR to always keep that forefront. Ask yourself, and you can actually use ChatGPT itself. One of my favorite use cases, you take the terms and conditions, you insert the web link and say, put this in English. What does this really tell me? It is wonderful for boiling that down. Who owns the data? That when I put in a prompt, who gets that? Who has access to that? You may or may not like the answer, but it's important for you to know the answer. Right. Okay, I do all of this. Who owns the conversational analytics? That's valuable stuff. And I should add that, my company does these things. You can do this publicly. You can now host this yourself so that you own that data. You own the conversation analytics. That's a choice that each company can make. So it's just to know what you're ticking to, and again, we know it's in little tiny print and we don't understand it, to take that little extra bit of time. What am I agreeing to? How can people use this? And do I feel okay with that? And does my company, because anyone who's using a company laptop on a company network, is my company okay with that? That doesn't mean you don't play with it personally on your own phone, on your own devices, on your own time, but to understand, what are you really agreeing to when you tick one of these new agreements?
Right. Right. I think the conversational analytics becomes really critical from when companies want to adopt it, because they would really want to see, is this really helping? There would be some different level of analytics, I think, that the data science teams would have different folks with different skill set actually focusing on analyzing, was this helpful for our customers? And is this meeting the OKRs that we intended to meet with this technology?
And that's really the golden rule. Did you create an experience that people want to? Because everyone said, well, what makes a successful chatbot? Or what's a good chatbot or a bad chatbot? And it's a very easy answer. Do people want to use it again? That's it. That's the only metric there is. If it was like, yeah, that answered my question, or yes, it was helpful, or yes, it did what I expected, I would use it again, you have a success.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. So, hey, just moving a little bit and switching gears, how about we talk industry specific
Sure.
You mentioned some parts when we talked earlier about different industries using this technology and what would be the use cases or at a high
Mhm.
level use cases.
Do you
And
want to pick an industry and we'll do a little bit of
yeah,
a deep
sure.
dive?
How about, I think retail is huge, right? Retail or legal. You mentioned there's education. So yeah, I mean,
Retail, I'll give a real one. We deal a lot with auto dealerships,
mm,
people who sell cars for a living. Oftentimes, a big question they get that is hard for them without the use of technology to answer. I have a 1980, Mercedes 123. What's it worth? There's so many factors. There's so many different things, and typically the agent is trained to answer, well, let's schedule an appointment. We'll come to you, you can bring it in and we'll assess it. Nobody likes that answer. They ain't answer. The customer wants to know, what is my car worth sight unseen? Through the use of chatbots, they can say, okay, we've looked at all of the different, the Kelley Blue Book and the other local ones. For what you have told us, the range is between $10,000 and $30,000, subject to an appraisal. The customer is happy because they've gotten a tangible answer. Also, the agent for a given model of car may not know or care, well, if it has this feature or this option, it's worth more. The chatbot can share that proactively to the point of, here's a checklist, Ms. Customer. So for your car, these are the things that will increase its value before we come out to look at it. So all of this is out there, but to make that instantly available directly through a chatbot or through a customer service agent, which is how this particular customer chooses to use it, they want the agent to always get the information and then share it with the customer.
yeah, no,
Very clever use case.
very, very clever. But I think one of the very talked about topic is, are humans going to be out of job then? Now, in this
No,
case, the car dealer
no.
going to be out, or the
Easy
even
question.
customer
This
service.
dealer has hired more people
Hmm.
because business has increased. Appraisals were a little tiny part of their business. They had 1 or 2 a week. Because they've been able to better answer the question, they're now doing 10 or 15 a week. And they're having to hire up and bring more people. Now, will they need as many call center agents because of the chatbot? No, that's honest. But those are trained, skilled people. They want them in other parts of the business. Also, you need people to manage the chatbot. It's never a set it and forget it. You need to continually augment it, continually improve it. So now there's a team of people who had been there for a very long time. They have now increased their skills. They're getting, not just do they still have a job, they're getting paid twice the money they used to be paid because now they're managing the chatbot for the company so that the company doesn't have to pay someone like us to do it. They can do it in-house.
Yeah, and also like there are some skills that come with with the trade, like negotiating, like bargaining in case of car dealership, right? That's not going to be ever given to a machine. It would always be stay with a human, where you are.
I'd push back on that a little. I'd say it would be chatbot assistance, AI assistance. Maybe it's the person is the chief negotiator, but they're going to have every tool at their disposal. AI is now going to be one of those tools. And just to kind of be on the flip side, people will often say, well, everyone's going to lose their job. No one's going to be around anymore. Well, if you don't implement AI and your company shuts down, and this is a little dramatic, marketers love hyperbole. Your company shuts down because your costs are too high. You're not going to be employing a whole lot of people either.
Yeah.
So the sense of urgency is, this is coming. We see the freight train with the light coming at us in the tunnel. We have every opportunity to decide how our business is going to do this. In a year's time, 5 years' time, it will probably be set. We'll see new people, new players in every industry. The ones that were early adopters who went through that learning curve that we all have to go through, they will be the ones who I believe personally are going to be the ones who are going to really flourish and thrive by taking full advantage of the new capabilities.
Yeah. And I think the other industry very popular, very talked about is legal. Would I need a lawyer to summarize this? Or like you mentioned, the draft one. I think you also mentioned about paralegal when we talked. Do you want to expand on that?
Yes, we've dealt with a number of legal firms. The legal firms like to bill people. They really get excited about making that money. It's not a question of, oh, they're stealing it away from me. I have the relationship with the customer. I'm on, my mobile app, on my website, I'm going to bring people into our ChatGPT. So when someone says, I need a quick letter on X, they can do that, and then the lawyer can quickly look over it and then deliver it. So you still have the brand trust of that law office, but allow the do-it-yourself, that all of the drafts, all the other things, that allows people the capability to do a little bit more for themselves. Again, we often think of the human does it, the machine does it, the AI or robot overlords. I really see that the best ones are collaboration. Think of this, and this comes from our executive chairman, Toby Ruckert. We are in a golden age. We are in the golden age of AI collaboration. Without humans, AI does nothing. Useless. With humans, we can do very cool things faster at a lower cost.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other industry that you think this would be more popular than the others, or would be more helpful than the others, or is lagging, but in given time it would catch up?
A little bit of an unfair question, because I don't think there's an industry that exists that cannot benefit from this. I'm, again, very biased and admit my own prejudice here. Think of the industries that need to write letters. Probably in your current job, very often you need to write a letter from blank, from a blank piece of paper. You have no idea how to word it, how to say it. You can say, write a letter to this person on this topic, go. 3 seconds later, you have it. So again, the generative part of the AI, you need to write something. As a business professional, time is always our big thing, that it can do a draft for you to review, tweak, and finalize. And I know a lot of people who are in the media creation business, reporters. Again, people's like, okay, my New York Times is going to be nothing but AI. Would say it differently. You're going to have the best reporters, because just like the best photographer gets the best use out of Photoshop, the best reporter is going to get the best use out of AI. So it's not about printing in the New York Times what the AI has spit out. It's about using that in the idea generation process, in the research process, so that they have a fuller, better article at the end of the day. With less time, yes. With lost costs, yes, as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, just let's talk a little bit about future, switching gears, and help us paint the future, not just from like what companies would do, but what you mentioned, photographer. A good photographer would use the good tools. In order to use these tools, you also have to have some skills, right? Like prompt engineering.
Yes. An art and science of writing an appropriate prompt, because you still need the domain expertise. If you know nothing of, let's say, healthcare, I've seen a lot of small doctors' offices. They create a lot of aftercare documentation. Now they can say, okay, what is the aftercare, wound care and the rest? It can give it to them in real time with great specificity. Yes, a doctor still looks at it, or a clinician, someone with the actual medical training, still looks at it before it's ever given to a patient, but it speeds it up, and it's so much cheaper than the service they're currently using now for that, than the subscription they currently have for that, and it can be customized. Yeah. I'll give an example. I need aftercare for a broken arm written for a 10-year-old. Most doctors' offices don't have that. Written for a 10-year-old who only speaks French. Okay, does not exist because there's not a market for it. But I can go in and, as a small doctor's office, ask for that. Here you go.
That is
very powerful.
That rings so true for me, because my 1.5-year-old broke her clavicle a few weeks ago. And I was like, how do you care for someone who doesn't understand, who we cannot communicate with?
The Dr. Seuss example. Explain the aftercare,
yes.
Pictures only, in the style of Dr. Seuss, appropriate for a 10-year-old. And now you have a customized book with her name, with her age, where she lives, that tells the story of how to care. Okay, that would be phenomenal for any pediatrician. Would they ever have the time or the resource to create that for your kid? Never. But now this could be done, as part of the checkout process. A few prompts, out of the color printer, here's a custom book.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's almost like you mentioned, it's the the iPhone apps moment, or even to go to the extent of saying the internet moment, where there is so many possibilities that that come to mind. Very interestingly, over the weekend, I was looking at this picture about how people thought the world would be 100 years from now. And this was in 1900s. And it is amazing that there are some things that that were true. There was a way for you to face, they could talk to someone who is not there, right? There was, literally every technology, the drones, every technology that we have, there was some way correlation or mention of it in that picture. And it amazes me that how we first see things, how we first imagine things, and then work towards executing it. And this becomes like a very, very efficient tool in the toolbox, like you mentioned, of course, along with the domain expertise. So,
and to that point, it really is science fiction. The fact that we can do things today for free on an iPhone that didn't even exist a year ago, that's pretty incredible. You can probably tell I am very pro diving in head first to the technology, to learn it, to understand, and then you make a very conscious, rational business decision beyond the buzz, the hype, the excitement. How can this be useful for our mission as a business that makes sense for us to use? People are saying, you need this app, you need this use case, you need this. No. Again, who am I to tell people? What I recommend, play with the technology, understand what it does and does not do well. Once you have that understanding, whether it's with outside experts, ourselves or others, then you can have a discussion. How can we, test the water? How can we dip our toes in? And often start with, what is the biggest pain point for your organization? What is just the thing that is just horrendously broken? It's not that this solves all problems, but because it's about communication, if it's a communication problem, how can this fit in as part of the solution? Give it a try. It's never been a lower cost to try these new things. If it doesn't work, great. You try it for 30 days, end it, but you will learn so much by doing those. And you're going to come upon some real winners that are going to change how you do business.
Yeah, I don't think even a year ago, let alone 6 months ago, anyone thought anyone would be paying for searching. And here we are. I'm ready to shell out $30 a month to get this technology, because it gives me what I want in the way I want it, right? In the way it's not even I want it. I didn't even know I wanted it this way. I would just dream of it, and I have one, right? It's like a personal assistant on the side. So hey, let's move to questions now.
Sure.
We have a couple here. Thanks everyone for joining. So pulling Sudha mentions she's giving you a shout out to say Ken Herron is the first person who got her thinking about the AI conversations. So question here. As someone who has integrated with several messaging products over the years, is there a unique challenge or opportunity in integrating to ChatGPT?
I would answer the question by saying it's not about integrating to ChatGPT. It's having the ability to integrate to multiple platforms. Again, this idea of don't put all your eggs in the one basket. There are ever-changing alliances, reasons why we want to do business. Microsoft, for example. You're a company, you have a contract with Microsoft, you get free credits. Doesn't cost you anything. Yep, we're going to use Microsoft. The often happens on the other side. Oh, our business is in direct competition with IBM. We really, to the point we can avoid it, don't want to give them money. You can integrate with ChatGPT. I would suggest, and again, bias, talk to someone like us that with a single integration, you can integrate with multiple generative AI programs. And if that's not appropriate, great, go ahead and integrate with it. But know that in some point in the future, oh, we'd really like to have one that we can control. Or we'd really like to have one that's open source that we don't get a monthly bill from Papa ChatGPT. So it's not about integrating with, it's like the messaging channels. There's a lot of different channels. Different people use different channels over time. I like the idea, let's give the capability to integrate with anything we choose to in the moment, rather than be locked into, ooh, I really like what Hugging Face is doing, but I'm stuck with ChatGPT because that's the contract. So it's just when you're doing these integrations, think about how do I have the widest, broadest. It's no different than as a little kid, we all had the box of crayons. And then we had that crazy aunt who gave us the 64 crayons in a box, and our little kid heads exploded. It's the same thing. Why limit yourself to 6 colors when there's 1,000, 1 million out there that you can do with the same single integration?
Right. Another question is, and we did touch a little bit on this, but what are the skills that are needed for the people, new people who will be hired and would want to use this technology?
The ability to read, and I mean this not fully jokingly, the ability to read, the ability to communicate,
yep.
The ability to not trust AI,
yep.
Meaning that just because a Google search says the answer is green, or the AI ChatGPT says the answer is green, to look at it. So someone who realizes, who has the experience, the domain expertise, that AI without the human is nothing, and you can't delegate that duty, that responsibility. If you're working in healthcare, if you're working for a bank, money is at stake, people's lives are at stake. Just because you're the receptionist at the checkout desk doesn't mean you hand things over because you're in a hurry or rushed, or, well, ChatGPT said the answer is X. You need to have a clinician look at that and make sure that that is accurate before you send it out there.
Yeah.
So someone who is open to playing with these things, who does not fear failure, but also someone who is willing to almost be a good scientist of the scientific method, try 1,000 different things, log it, track it, and keep improving from it, and can communicate those results to the company in a way that the company can understand. Every company has a culture, every company has a way of doing things. Depending on the company, this can be very threatening. The people who have power, and this isn't an age thing, but often the principals have the least willingness or ability to play with new fun things that may not amount to anything. The intern who is a geek and willing to play and try new things, in very short order, they will know more than the principal, but they don't have that experience, that wisdom that the principal has. So it's to kind of connect these people to get the best of both worlds. A lot of good reverse mentoring opportunities, we'll say it that way.
Perfect. Yeah. I don't have any more questions, but I would just go back to the opening part that you mentioned about there is no CEO or an executive getting asked by the board members, hey, what's your plan? And in turn, they're going to go back to their team and ask them, what's your plan? So as anyone in this situation where you are being either thinking proactively or being asked to think of, how would you suggest them to go about figuring out a plan or a strategy? And in that sense, what I mean is, do you go for things that are extremely working well, doing well within your portfolio or within your company? Or do you go for things that are not working so well and figure out opportunities? How would you prioritize? And I mean, it's how would someone start?
I appreciate the question. Every business has a set of priorities. Let's hope. Every successful business has a plan, has a strategy, has a set of priorities. Share those priorities with someone in the space, preferably us, but there's a lot of good people out there, and say, okay, this is what we are trying to achieve. As you said, that can be a success, make it go over the top. This can be an actual business problem, a pain point. Both are valid. But look at the existing list of priorities. This isn't about, okay, we're going to disrupt the plan and you got to do everything different. You're already a functioning business, hopefully successful. You already have that strategy, that plan. This quarter, we need to fix X. Ask the question, can these new set of capabilities that did not exist a short period ago, how can they be part of the solution? They may not be the total solution, rarely they are, but how can this help us to accelerate what we're already working on?
Yeah.
And I think people are genuinely surprised how quickly they can see if something will work or not. This isn't like it takes a year, go into a cave, see if it comes back out. You can often find out. I kind of jokingly say, the idea is discussed over morning coffee, and I realize many people are still virtual, but it's discussed early on the day. Tap, tap, tap. We try it out, review the results, midday, and by the end of the day, did this do what we think it would do or not?
Yeah, no, absolutely, because like you mentioned, that it is it's going to be everyone. It doesn't need a year to integrate. Like usually they say, oh, how much time do I need to adopt this technology? How many people do I need to hire? Do I need to create a budget to see the value from this? This is more quick. I think that's the difference between
much faster. Yes, it's a little bit different. You should still do the thought process of business case because it's resource, it's time, it's people. But we often do 30-day proofs of concept. And within a week, they're like, okay, yeah, this worked. Well, let's, rethink, or okay, did not work, or often did not work in the way we anticipated. So what are the adjustments? That this is, again, it's a very live dynamic thing, and the capabilities are changing on a very frequent basis.
There's one last question I would like to take is there any ethical consideration in implementing ChatGPT?
There's ethics in every business decision. I err on the side, let's say that you have a company, you have people are concerned that, oh my gosh, they're going to implement ChatGPT and I'm not going to have a job. That's very disruptive. That's very toxic. Better yet, say, hey, we want to try something with ChatGPT. This is something we're already trying to do. Involve people in it. Communicate what's happening throughout the process. And I'll give a real life example. We worked with an Italian lawnmower company, legacy lawnmower company. They started making robotic lawnmowers. We were talking with them about enabling the conversation for these robotic lawnmowers. The people who made the lawnmowers, a little nervous, a little stressed here. These are unionized, represented labor. They weren't real comfy with that. Instead of running forward with that being the first phase of the project, the first phase of the project was putting conversation into the holiday, the vacation request process. What did that do? That solved a problem that it took on average 2 weeks for someone to get a vacation approved. That's silly. With the conversational AI, it was now routed automatically, and within 2 hours, vacation was being approved. Everyone liked that. And they told people, this is under the hood, this is how it's working. So you had at all levels of the business an understanding, oh, this is what it is. This is what it does. That the fear just dissipated. And employees were now saying, can you solve this problem with it? Or this would be good. So it went from an environment of fear, of people saying, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job, to this is kind of cool. How can it help me? How can I be the next hero? The best ideas are always going to come from the people closest to the process, closest to the problem, closest to the customer. So anything you can do to help them all come along on the journey, everybody wins. Yep. So yes, when they moved to robotic lawnmowers, were some jobs needing less people? Absolutely. But those people, because of their experience, because of their domain expertise, which is the only way any of this works, were snapped up. And actually, a successful company is going to grow and hire. When they're hiring more people, it's a good thing.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, Ken. I think this was a very, very interesting discussion. Learning about where this is going in the real world is so critical and so important, so that we can take it back, these learnings, and ask ourselves, how can we help? How can this help us in our day-to-day jobs? Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm going to end the YouTube live. But everyone who's listening, thank you. We will see you all next Wednesday. Thank you again. Take care.
Thanks.
Uh,
And if there's